This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. I'm going to cover this situation in Maine the best I can here on YouTube, which, again, I'm trying to do this to get around the censorship by just using my logo in the background as compared to showing you news clips and articles. Those are things that I can only do on the website when it comes to situations like this. I'm going to try to fit in one of these clips from the event that you do need to see with somebody who was interviewed right after the fact, which shows you what a clown show these events actually are. And of course, everybody actually who calls the news fake, the people out there who are like, the mainstream media is fake and they're controlled, they don't realize that the stories that are in the mainstream media like these are fake too. They only think it pertains to politics. These stories are always done by design. These are done by special ops, and they're done for the reason of bringing in more regulations, restrictions, and changing laws. That's what they do it for. They emotionally try to bring you in. Now, it's no surprise with all the conflict going on overseas that they're going to be doing a gun grab here in the U.S. Why? Well, because one, we're involved in what's happening over there in the Middle East, and it's going to be even worse here in America very, very soon. And number two, of course, they want us to be completely unprotected. And they want us to literally give up our right to bear arms when we're about to go into World War III. Now, the irony of all this stuff is that they tell us that we need to get rid of these. No civilian needs to own this type of weapon. No civilian should have this. It's ridiculous. You don't need that to protect your home. Well, people are actually arming up to protect themselves from the government, the tyrannical government, which everybody sees, who has eyes to see and ears to hear, sees what's going on. And anything that they tell you shouldn't have, you should have. And anything they tell you should do, you should not do. And you know specifically what I'm referencing. The two things that they're trying to do right now. They're trying to get something away from you to protect that you can protect yourself with. And then the other thing they're telling you is to protect yourself, but it doesn't make you immune. And eventually it'll kill you, if not immediately, very, very shortly after. Okay? So this event has all the same narratives that we always see, right? All the same narratives. And at a time period where our government is telling us that they want to take these away, our tax money is supposedly funding civilians over in Ukraine. Now, we know that that's not really true because we know that the civilians over in the Ukraine are under attack from their own government as well. And that's what's been going on there. And that's what's happening everywhere. All the conflicts that are going on are the governments going after civilians. And that's what's coming to America next. So there's never been a more important time for people to wake up, be aware, and arm themselves, and more people are. So they create events like this where they make these people who are usually, if the event itself isn't fake, they use Manchurian candidates. A lot of these people always have a background in the military, or you could look at them and you could see that they've just been completely had their minds, the slate wiped clean on their minds, and they've been put through under heavy mind control to act out these operations. And most of the time, these people don't even know that they act them out. You could look at Manchurian candidates. They've been showing us that predictive programming forever, or operations like MK Ultra, et cetera, et cetera. And I've covered Russ Dizdar talking about super soldiers, right? So let's look at the background of this guy, and then let me show you a clip of one of the actors on scene, because the whole thing is a clown show, and they get a kick out of this stuff. They do this stuff by design when they put a lot of these actors around the scenes of these events, because they can't believe that people out there actually believe it. But they also know that the majority of people have to believe it because they won't let anybody question it. So if it's the only narrative they hear, they're going to believe it. That's why they censor people like me and you. So again, this is one of these events where there's no motive whatsoever. And you're going to hear the same narratives. The same narratives come out of all these stories. Number one, the person will likely end up not alive after the event. Now, I'm not saying that for a fact. I'm saying this is usually the way that it goes. 99% of the time, these people never make it out alive. They never go to court, so they lay their lives down to take out strangers. And of course, none of this makes sense if you actually think about criminals and about people that commit crimes, that they'd risk their lives and go after people who haven't wronged them. There's no motive here, right? So number one, you'll probably see him not make it to court. You know what I mean? And then number two, the other thing that we're seeing more and more, which I covered on the website a bunch of times recently, is the manifesto. A lot of these guys have manifestos. This is done by design now. This is one of their new, this is one of the new operations that they do with these rogue people, these people that just lose their cool and go out and take civilians down. They have manifestos, and inside that manifesto are the narratives that we always hear. Conspiracy theorists was into what they call white supremacy, was online researching about globalist conspiracy, Illuminati conspiracy, all of these types of things they do because they continue to seed plant They don't care if people get suspicious or not because they know that they won't. So they plant seeds as to who a real threat is in the mind of society of the zombies. So then they look at people like me and you as actual threats because we have the same mindset as far as thinking that there's a globalist cabal, et cetera, right? These are the terms that they use. So then people think that we're unhinged, that we would go do these events, and we say to be armed, so that they have the right eventually to pass laws to come to our homes and remove our guns from our homes. That's what it's about. They don't want you armed and protected, not just to uprise, but to protect yourself from what's coming in the states. And that's why they're so hell-bent on getting this specific gun, because every one of these events happens to occur with this specific weapon. This is the weapon they don't want you to have. They don't want you to be able to pierce armor. They don't want you to have any certain types of ammunition that could do harm to some of these people. Not that they care about these people, but they realize there's more of us than them. So if enough people who are armed with these things got together, they'd be able to protect themselves and potentially fight back against this cabal, which is taking over. Now, as I get more into some of the narratives that are coming out of this, and I'll read you some of the stories out there, let me just show you what a clown show this is. Get a look at this. This is an actual clip within the last 24 hours of this happening, which I think is about 12 hours of me recording this. This is an actual clip aired on the news where they're trying to talk to people who are around the scene, et cetera, and you couldn't, it's just a total clown show. This person was interviewed in regards to everything that just happened. There's no emotion involved, but you can't even get to the lack of emotion and the thought process going on because they're literally just mocking us with who they throw out there these days as crisis actors. Look at this.
This is an overwhelming situation. I don't think we've ever had anything like this. I'll tell you, my insides are just really sick over this. I've heard people that down there by the doors that have family members in there. There was a girl down there with 5 people, all got shot up, and they're like frantic. What are you gonna do? And I can just feel the vibes from other people. So yeah, this is not good.
You know what I mean? Like that's a grandfather. That's an 80-year-old man pretending to be a woman. And that's what they throw out there to give us information. Oh, it's so catastrophic, and I'm so upset. What was some of the quotes? I'm so upset. I'm so hurt. Yeah, you seem real upset. You seem perfectly normal, right? With your red wig on. So this is how laughable it's gotten. I guarantee you they do this by design with the actors that they put in place because it's so laughable. All one really has to do with common sense is watch any of these people where their kids are victims. They're going on NBC Morning, Good Morning America, all these shows the day after their child tragically perishes in one of these events, which wouldn't be like something they're ever prepared for. Even then, if your child was sick for a long time and perishes, the person needs time to mourn and heal. These people don't seem to. They pop on TV. Now, this person wasn't claiming to be related, I don't believe, to anybody, but they rub it in our faces with the B-level acting because they're holding up the middle finger and they're saying the majority of the people out there are so dumb that they'll believe whatever we tell them. And we know there's people out there that are going to question it, but they're not allowed to have a voice to speak against it. So we'll just make this more and more over the top and more ridiculous. So, like I said, this guy, whoever's responsible, they'll put the same narrative on him. Mental health issues. That's what they're already saying about him. Mental health issues. So when you hear that, that's what happens every time. They start breaking down his character. This is what he looked at online. This is what he did. This is what he was into. I wouldn't be surprised in one of these events, they'll say that he listens to some crazy YouTuber like that guy. Remember that crazy YouTuber called for an uprising? That guy was nuts. They'll probably put him and say they listen to that guy, right? I don't know where that guy is anymore, but that guy was pretty decent in his heyday, but that's the type of stuff that they do. So let's look at some of the stories that are out there in regards to it, how many people have perished, and the timing of this, of course, couldn't be more convenient as they're starting to lure us in and bait Christians in and everybody's getting baited into their massive psychological operation to support what's going on over there. And of course, the stories that are going on with the border and having people coming in left and right, they're setting us up for an attack from within. It's very, very clear. And they create these events around it so that you're not armed. Civilians' rights are taken away so that they can't prepare themselves. And specifically, they're targeting people like us because we're the threat to them. They don't want to see us come out on the other side of what's about to come. Why? Because they know that if we come out on the other side of this, that they're going to have to pay a price at some point for what they've done to humanity and what they've done to all of us. And a lot of the lives are going to perish at their hands. or I should say at their sacrifice. So this guy goes by the name. Of course, they conveniently immediately have pictures of him out and backstories of him out, but they can't find him, right? It's too hard to find him. He went into multiple places and nobody could find him or stop him. I mean, right. Okay. So, and what's the motive, by the way? Oh, right. Well, the motive will make no sense because, that's one of the things you always have to think about. These people go in here, right? And they're like, you know what? I'm ready to die. I'm ready to go out. I'm going to take people out with me. And they don't want to take out anybody that's wronged them or hurt. There's just never a real motive. I'm just going to go after everyone. I hate everybody. I want to go after everybody. Now, people don't realize that 99.9% of any of these events that happen with weapons are created by our government. They still think that these naturally happen because they've been programmed through watching all these crime shows, even though they should be thinking when they watch the crime shows that there's usually motives involved in a lot of these things, whether it's money or something else or vengeance. These people never have a motive, so they should be saying to themselves, well, what's the motive? I mean, you can't go, it's hard to go to court without a motive. Well, the motive is that he was into conspiracy theories. Oh, right. Right. And don't be surprised, too, if you hear some stuff tied to anti, that word with this story also. So police identified 40-year-old Robert Card as a person of interest in a mass event in Lewistown, Maine, where at least 16 people perished and dozens were injured. A man firing something that goes bang, bang, opened fire at a restaurant, Shemenji's Bar and Grill, and bowling alley, spare time recreation in Lewistown Wednesday night, causing multiple casualties before fleeing into the night. The two places are about 4 miles from each other, fleeing into the night. I mean, how can they not get the guy at this point, really? As of they said the entire task force of the state is on hand for, involved in this, including the FBI and other. Where are you? I just don't understand this mindset. And people believe it. It's like you cannot hide. There's a CCTV camera everywhere. Okay, they should be able to track this guy down immediately just based on find the vehicle and look at every single street corner, right? Are you going to find an abandoned car and then say he's in the woods? All right, well, if he's in the woods, then fly drones all over the place. I mean, it's really unbelievable. But again, they keep people in fear with these stories. They try to continue to bait people into buying these stories. And then people at the end of the day say, oh, you know what? We need to do something and ban these things because it's happening too often in all these places that are supposed to be safe, like bowling alleys or malls or concerts. When people who are bearing arms, 90% of them are bearing arms to protect their home, okay? The other 10% who do are people who are bearing arms to protect themselves against the government. But that level is starting to go to 25% are realizing the government's coming for them. With the stuff with the IRS and the stories they put out there. So more and more people are getting wise to this, and they're more and more desperate to make sure civilians try to unarm us because they have to use them to get these things passed. And they have to convince people that it needs to be passed. That's why they create these events. So the story goes on to say here about this guy. If people see him, they should not approach him or make contact with him in any way. Police share 2 photos of Card, including one which appears to have been taken from his social media profile and shows him fishing. These have been widely shared on social media to raise awareness among residents. According to a press release by the Maine State Police, Card is a trained instructor believed to be in the Army Reserve stationed in Maine. According to law enforcement, Card had recently reported suffering from mental health issues. And this is a subconscious thing they do. They constantly say that these people have mental health issues, which of course they do, right? But they also try to normalize mental health. They don't talk about 5G. They don't talk about the media and what they're causing, doing to people's minds. And really, instead of saying mental health, anybody that would actually do an event like this isn't suffering from mental health. They're psychopaths, okay? But the reason they use mental health is that they eventually, after this, you'll hear stories come out. And they'll say that this guy is tied into reading right-wing conspiracies online. It's the same narrative. Alt-right conspiracy theories online. He was very into the alt-right. He's very into the alt-right conspiracy. And they just keep pumping. Then when they want to pass more things, they're going to lump people like me and you into this mental health thing and say, we have mental health. Oh, yeah. And then listen to this. So he has suffering from mental health issues, including hearing voices and threatening to bang, the National Guard base in Maine. So hearing voices. And you know what another thing with hearing voices is? They tie that into Christianity. That's the other thing that people don't realize. Because they think that, by you praying, et cetera, oh, God told me to do it. That's another narrative that we hear them use all the time. Oh, God told me. Oh, they're hearing, okay, these people need to be committed. That's what they're telling us. Well, they're telling us that kids should be castrated and be allowed to castrate themselves, right? It's an inverted reality. Okay. So Card, the statement continues, was also reportedly admitted into a mental health facility for over 2 weeks in the summer. And then they'll come out and tell us why he was there, what he was talking about there. And again, it'll be this alt-right type stuff. The police document did not provide details of the treatment he received or his condition. While police did not disclose further information, the University of Maine confirmed that he studied engineering between 2001 and 2004. And he supposedly has no other criminal records in public databases. That's because he's likely, that's the thing. You have to wait. And I'll cover it on the website. Like when more video comes out, I'll do like my normal breakdowns of the videos and the acting and all that stuff. Just waiting on more of the narrative to come out before I actually put those together. But it's always the same thing, right? It's always the same story. It's 99% of the time these people never make it to actually go to trial. There's a few rare times which they have to sprinkle in because then it becomes way too suspicious. But another thing to note with this, again, is that there's usually now manifestos. So don't be surprised with some of the narratives that you hear in the manifesto relating to a lot of the topics we all talk and think about. Okay? Because then they start creating in people's minds, this wall gets put up where they think that we're all dangerous and we're all psychopaths. That's exactly what they're trying to do to protect themselves. Trying to make us seem like dangerous threats when no one's condoning violence, but they're like, oh, they talk about the same things that these guys talk about. And they own these same weapons. We have to get them from those people, and we need to have those people put in mental health institutions for thinking the way they're thinking. And they convince them of this, and they're so afraid of people like us because we realize who they are. They're being exposed, and they've been exposed. And now more than ever, they have to protect themselves because the conflict that's going on over there exposes the entire New World Order and the people behind the entire New World Order. So keep an eye on where this thing heads. But again, remember the talking points. The mental health is always a common theme, right? And it's something that someone just go, well, duh. If a guy goes and does that at a mall and a bowling alley, clearly he's got problems, but you would just say he's a psychopath. The reason they use mental health is because they're going to use the term mental health to come after all of us. Oh, Christians are praying. They're hearing voices, mental health problem. Oh, they're listening to these conspiracies about globalists and they're dangerous. Oh, mental health problems. Then when they put in legislation that says, well, we need to find out if they have mental health problems, if they're allowed to be armed, et cetera, et cetera. So they're going to arm up all the real lunatics and take arms away from people who only have them to protect themselves because they realize what's going on. And then the government obviously creates all these events. So the stupid people out there think that these things just keep happening and they blame the weapon. They don't think about how many things have happened before with knives. So you want to ban that next? What do you want us to cut our steaks in our kitchen with paper knives? I mean, are these people that dumb? Yeah, they are. They are. And they believe all these stories because they don't think people are this insane and sick. And that's why it's important to know about the people over in the land of bagels right now, how sick they are. Right? And that's why I cover the libel and other things over on the website. Because when you realize how sick they are and what liars they are and how pathetic they are and how pathetic they've always been and why they've always been exposed and caught because they expose themselves like they're doing now. And then they go to these means of censorship, etc., because they don't want to be exposed. They don't want anyone to point it out. But then you look at their behavior and how they act. It becomes more and more obvious of who's behind it and what they're doing. And over history, people have woken up to it. They haven't had the control over the minds like they have now. But that's what people like me and you are here for, to wake them up to it. So they are afraid. They are. I mean, they're cowards. They really are cowards. They're such cowards that they have to censor speech. They're such cowards that they want us completely unarmed so they can annihilate us without any pushback. And that's not going to happen. Not in the United States of America. But something is going to happen here sooner than later because they're getting closer and closer to putting more legislation in. And this might be the event that does it. I mean, who knows? They could just do it as they please. They've conditioned people enough with event after event that we're just waiting for them to come out with new legislation and say, okay, it's going to be a national ban on this specific weapon. Enough's enough. And everyone's going to go, okay, yeah, enough is enough. It's just happening too many times. It's just too much. And they would never think that their own government was doing it because they trust their government. And there's no one on the planet you could trust less, especially now, than this current regime in Congress on both sides. I am not a Republican. On both sides, all the puppets playing their roles from the extreme alt people like Lauren Boebert, they're all playing their role. They are completely against the people. They've proven that. Yet the people don't want to wake up to it because they love their political affiliation so much, the same as loving their sports teams. It's complete utter insanity. So keep an eye on the story, keep an eye on the narratives. I covered it more over on the website, uprisingrevival.com. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.